join the morning. Okay? I don't want to get calls from people I don't even know. Okay. All right, the first form that we have, and we got them in order pretty much so that it'll be easy to follow through. The first form is our application. Anytime we rent a property, we make sure that everybody completes an application. Ours is 3 pages long, okay? Now, you'll notice at the top of it, it says an application fee of $40 per individual or married couple is non-refundable. And we also need a copy of a driver's license and a current pay stub. Do you realize that now, too, anyone who is a salaried employee is required by law to get a pay stub? Hope you all realize that. And we do that for proof of identity and for proof of income. And obviously, you get their name and their present address. And also, we find who the previous landlord was or who they're renting from. We get their name and their phone number. Let me tell you something that we did. Years ago, we started doing this because we found that some tenants would give us a phone number and a name of one of their friends. Now, I know you think people would never do that, but they do. So how did we get around that? And how did we find out and protect ourselves from being a victim? I have our office manager run a tax research to find out if the owner's name of the property is the same person they gave me as the landlord's name. I can't tell you how many times it's not. But it's just another way of checking things out. And the tax records are public records. You all can go online and get that anytime you want. So it's not anything private or anything. You can find out a lot of information by just doing that. Okay, on the second page, one of the things of the application, one of the things right now, Butch referred to it a little bit earlier, is about pets. Well, you'll notice in the middle of that second page it says, do you have pets? How many? What kind? And the weight. Well, for insurance purposes, some dog breeds are considered to be aggressive. And those are going to be usually pit bulls, Dobermans, Rottweilers, and Shepherds, for the most part, because they just have a more aggressive nature. And insurance companies will not cover the tenant, and they certainly won't, they'll cancel the owner if they get a call and they have a complaint put against them. They can very well check that out too. So you want to make darn sure. I'll tell you a funny story we had. When I was younger, my first rental property was a fourplex in Old Metairie, and it was my first time, and we had a tenant there, kind of a spaced out guy. His name was Frank. I won't tell you his last name. But anyway, Frank tells me, he says, Mr. Wayne, he says, do you mind if I have a pet? A little pet. I said, well, I'm new at this, I didn't know much. And I said, sure, no problem. Well, about, I guess 2 or 3 months went by, and I was out there doing some work at the property on a weekend, and I run into Frank, and I said, Frank, you said if I get a pet, I don't see any pets. He says, yeah, he said, come on in, I'll show it to you. Well, his idea of a little pet was a 6-foot-long Burmese python. Now, I want to tell you, I don't like snakes. The only part of me that the snake's going to bite is my ass, because I'm going to be running from it. But I mean, that's just the way it is, okay? But people have exotic pets today, so you have to really be careful and watch who you run into. Yep. Another thing on here is vehicles. We had a lot of problems with this after Katrina, where maybe a contractor would come in and rent a place, and then all of a sudden we had 4 of his subs, 4 extra trucks, 4 trailers, and you just don't have enough room in most places to park that many vehicles. So that was a problem then. We haven't had a problem much with that lately, but we do make sure that they put the cars, that they're going to be storing there.
Mr. Wayne, if you don't on that point, I actually am on the board of directors at a condo complex, the one I talked with you guys about, and it's a big issue. That condo complex, each owner is entitled to 2 spaces, and then there's general parking. Well, if there's 4 to 5 vehicles for one unit, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, it becomes an issue, right? I mean, I don't know about you. I only own 1 vehicle, but I do have family members who own multiple vehicles. How about you guys? You know what I'm talking about? They have multiple vehicles.
That's right.
Some people like to collect vehicles, like in an unhealthy way. So it's just something. It's very important because you're managing the whole thing, right? Like, all those aspects matter. You're managing the pets they're bringing into, the vehicles that they're storing out there. You know?
Well, absolutely. And you also have to find out what kind of exercise these people do. Like, we had a guy one time that, when I met him, I get out there and he's got a t-shirt on and he's got arms like this on him. Well, he had weights. And if you drop those weights and you've got ceramic tile, guess what?
Right.
I mean, like my wife's idea of exercise is to get in a tub of water, pull the plug, and fight the current. But anyway, then we go down a little bit further, and we have 7 questions, and it's just basic things like: you ever been convicted of a felony, a sex crime, filed bankruptcy, been evicted from a residence that you rented, and brought to court by another landlord. Anyone in your household a smoker, and is a rent and deposit available now? Again, just common sense things that, we need to know if we're going to rent this home. Now, the next thing is, it says, in case of an emergency, notify. Now, that doesn't seem like a very important thing, does it? But let me tell you when it becomes important. And I've had this happen a few times to us. When a tenant dies in your property, and you don't know who the hell to call. So, you don't think about those things, and you hate to think about them, but they happen. That's a part of life.
Right.
So, getting who to notify in the case of an emergency is very important. Okay.
Mr. Wayne, what do you think on, so the application is important because it's your starting point for screening the tenant, right? And again, if I'm taking over some future points, tell me, what do you think most people, of those things on the application that people routinely forget to ask and it causes issues down the line?
Well, I don't know exactly what we forget to ask, but what we
Well, other people,
yeah.
Most landlords forget to ask X, Y, Z that you guys have implemented from lessons learned, right?
Well, what we do is we get a 3-page application, and you'll see in this application we cover pretty much as much detail as we can. And by doing that, the more thoroughly that a person fills out an application, usually that tells you the better quality of tenants you're going to be getting. Okay? When they leave a lot of things blank, when I have to sit down, and I'll tell you what we do. We will go over the application before I run a credit bureau on them. And we're a bonded agent with Equifax, so I can run credit bureau reports right on the computers in our office. Okay? But another thing too, you must sign and make sure that the applicant and the co-applicant sign it, because with the privacy laws that we have and issues in the country today, it's important to get them to sign it. We can't run a credit bureau if they don't get a signature on that form. Okay? Now, for those of you that are landlords, I don't know if you do a lot of screening, but if you don't, I'm going to give you the name and phone number if you'd like to copy it down. There's a company out of the Midwest. It's called Screen the Tenant. And Screen the Tenant is owned by Paul and Joanne Ritter. And they charge $50 to do a complete credit bureau report and police report on tenants. So if you want to call them, their phone number is 412-242-2733. Name of the company is called Screen screen the tenant. They do an excellent job. Another thing that they'll do, if you're working with investors, they will help you sometimes repair your credit, show you what you need to pay off, what you don't need to pay off, and things like that, so that anybody you're working with to buy a home can qualify for it. Okay?
Excuse me, can you repeat the phone number?
Yes, it is 412 242 2733. The next page that we have is our property management selection criteria. Now, again, I'm not going to run over all of these things, but there are a few things in here that are worth saying. Number one, we require that any tenant we rent to has got to make at least 3 times the monthly rent. Okay? We ask that.
Mind if I ask why you do that? I know there's a level of it that's common sense, but I don't want to assume that everyone's thinking the same thing. Why do you require 3 times the rent?
Well, because we've found over the years that that's the easiest way to keep people in there that are going to be able to afford to pay the rent. You know, when we look at the application, and when I look at the credit bureau report, I can look at that and tell you, if I'm looking at scheduled payments that they have to make, and the rent payment, and there's only about $200 left over, guess what? We're going to have a problem with them. Because you got to figure that they want to eat, and I guarantee you they're going to pay their cell phone bill, and hopefully they're going to pay their electric bill, and hopefully they're going to put gasoline in their car. And folks, you just, from experience and years of doing this, you know, I've been doing this almost 50 years, and I promise you, I can look at someone most of the time and tell you whether or not I'm going to have a problem with them. And if I'm going to have a problem with them, my philosophy is, let's have the problem right now. Let's not let them into place. I'd rather see one of my properties sit vacant for an extra few months rather than put somebody in there that I know I'm going to have a problem with. I know it's going to run off good tenants, because that's what happens. Okay? Also, a security deposit is usually at least 1 month's rent, depending on the qualifications of the tenant. You know, we may ask for co-signers, we may ask for a lot of different things. The next form is a security deposit receipt. Now, what's pretty neat about, or not neat, but standard, is the law states that when a person vacates a property, you have to give them the deposit back within 30 days. That's the law. If you don't give it back to them, you have to give them a reason why you're not giving it back to them. Or if you're going to give them half back and deduct for certain things, you give them an itemized list of what you're going to deduct for, and give them back the balance. Okay? And in that it says the cost of material and of labor and materials for cleaning and repairs and delinquent payments will be deducted from the security deposit if the above 12 or 10 provisions are not complied with. The security deposit will be refunded by a check mailed to the forwarding address made payable to all persons signing the lease. Refunds cannot be picked up at the office.
You said, some people you may ask for more or less. Is there any red flags that say this person, I want a little more security than that person besides fence? Is there any other thing that may make you want a little more?
Depends on what I find on the application and on their credit report. And I don't mean to be evasive, it's just that, you know, you have to look at each one individually to find out what you're dealing with.
Have you had an example of one that you've done in the past where it wasn't a red flag to where you wouldn't not rent to them, but it was a red flag where you're like, I'm going to need a little bit more skin in the game from you?
Well, again, you know, it depends on, in our interview, what we're finding with them too. Because I had one just recently that came in and all rents for our company are due on the first. Now we manage 110 units. I can't have some rents due on the first, some on the fifth, some on the 50th, some on the 20th. I'd never close the books. So all rents in all forms that we use on a calendar month basis. Rents are due on the first. We give a 5-day grace period. Well, most of the owners do. Some of them are now giving 3-day grace we start eviction procedures. You know, she was talking about being nice. I am a nice guy. But when you don't pay your rent, you're taking money out of my family's pocket. And my wife don't like that. I mean, you know, that's just a fact.
I haven't met you. I haven't had the opportunity to meet your wife, so I hear. So what do you? Should I fear her?
Like that's because she's
Yeah.
the sweetest woman in the world.
No, I'm just kidding.
She has to, she has to.
No, it's funny. It's funny though, but it's one of those things where it's a reality. If they don't pay that month, who's paying the mortgage?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so what is that going to look like for you, right? Do you have the money to come out of pocket to pay that, $500 mortgage note that month, or have you? It's these processes are important because if not, the money's coming out of someone's pocket. You just decided it's yours.
Okay, now we're going to go to our residential lease, which is a 6-page document. We use the standard lease for the New Orleans Metropolitan Association of Realtors. We have added some things to our lease, and when we hit some of the primary parts, I'll go over them with you. But the term of the lease, usually our owners don't want to take a lease less than a year. Most of the time, and the reason is because when you have turnover in apartments, it's costly. I don't care how nice they are, or clean they are, you're going to have some problems. And after the original term of our lease, everything is on a month-to-month renewal basis. Okay? And then we go through the rent, the security deposit that we collect. And then on the second page, we talk about occupants. Now, on our leases, we put every person's name on that lease. Why do we do that? Because if you don't, if I think there's going to be 3 people in that property, and I find out that there's 12, that's a problem. Okay? And I'll tell you how you find out a lot of times. Neighbors. Neighbors will call and they'll say, what the hell is going on next door? And I mean, you do find out from, in ways like that. Another thing is for pets, if they allow pets, we put the pet's name, and if we're collecting an additional security deposit form, we do that. We also have a pet form. There's nothing I'm going to really go over on page 3 because
Let
it's...
me ask you a question.
Yes.
So, what would you do if you leased it to this couple, and then you find out there's actually 10 people living in there? What do you do?
Evict.
You just-
Absolutely. That's a violation of the lease.
Yeah, okay,
Okay? Whenever there's a violation of the lease, it gives me grounds to get them out.
okay.
And to touch on that, if there's 12 people in that property, legally you can only have 2 people per bedroom, so they can't have 12 people living in that unit, unless it's a 5-bedroom house.
If the lease is illegal.
It's illegal, exactly.
So there's some levels of it in local laws as far as physically. Like I had someone, actually at the marina, I had someone who, when I was a property manager, I was a property manager for 4 years for a marina that was owned by an apartment complex company. So it was all, they were like, here, let's train you like an apartment complex manager, but go translate that to boats, Courtney, good luck. But we had a limit on the dogs you could have, and all of a sudden this person had, like 6 dogs in the boat. And it's like, that actually broke a local law. And so for a reason, that makes you liable. This is in your property. Where does the buck stop? I mean, on public record, who's attached to that property? So that's why it's important to outline very clearly what you're agreeing to, and that they know what they're agreeing to, because it's going to be very clear when they're outside of the line, right? They're in violation of it.
And I will evict them. If they do things that are just blatantly wrong, I will evict them. Now, on page 4 of the lease, I'm going to go over one part, and you'll find that this is pretty standard in almost every parish in the state of Louisiana. On line 212 of the lease, it's called waiver of notice. Upon termination of the right of occupancy for any reason, lessee hereby expressly waives notice to vacate the premises prior to the institution of eviction proceedings with LACCP. LACCP stands for Louisiana Civil Code of Procedure. Okay? Article 4701 and 2713. Let me tell you what the due process of law is. if a person doesn't pay rent, and I give them a 5-day grace period, I can post a 5-day notice to vacate for the non-payment of rent on the 6th day. If I don't hear from them 5 days later, on the 11th day, I can post a second 5-day notice to vacate. After that, on the 15th day, I then call the Justice of the Peace, or in Slidell here, it's actually the Slidell City Marshal. And it's right in downtown where we go there and they assign us a court hearing date. And that's when we go in there, and if the tenant shows up, usually they won't if it's for non-payment of rent. But if they show up, then we go before the judge, and if they haven't paid, he's going to render me a judgment of possession. And that means I can go in and kick them out legally, and I'll be with a sheriff's agent there when we do that. Okay, because I've seen times where, I can tell you some stories where once we get that judgment of possession and we go out there with the sheriff, I legally can go out there and we'll have subcontractors or workers with us, and we literally throw everything out on the street. We throw it on the street, we take pictures of it, and we're covered by law, okay? If you have the waiver of notice, like we have in our leases, you'll find that you can skip the first 5-day notice to vacate, you can skip the second 5-day notice to vacate, and you go straight to a hearing date, which means we file for the eviction right away. I can get them out a lot quicker. I can literally get someone out in 15 days. So, just for your information, but that's what the waiver of notice is. And every constable, every justice of the peace, our city marshal is going to tell you that they want to see the lease and they want to see if you have a waiver of notice. So it's very important. Okay?
How much does that process cost? I've never had to evict anybody in Slidell, so what is it? $400, $500?
Oh, no, it's $100.
Oh, okay.
Okay, on page 5 of the lease, you'll notice on line 225 where it says special conditions. Now we do this, you wouldn't have to do this, but we put the parties acknowledge that the realtor agent has acted strictly as a broker to bring the parties together and has no responsibility for the refund of the deposit or performance of any of the provisions of the contract by either party. And it's just a catch-all to cover us because we act as agents. Now, we turn over, whenever we collect a security deposit, you'll see we note that in some other forms. Whenever we turn over or we collect a security deposit, it's not our money, so we turn it over to the owner. We don't hold security deposits that belong to the owner, so we give it to them. And it's their responsibility to give it back to the tenant when the tenant leaves.
Real quick on that security deposit, do you recommend that landlords keep that like in a separate account? So it's not in like their operating account? Because I bet you they spend it. You know what I mean? Not thinking, oh, I need to keep this, $6,000 of deposits or whatever it is. I need to keep this separate because at one point I'm gonna have to return it or whatever. Actually, I don't know if you guys recommend that, but that's actually a common thing.
It's
Have
a
a
good-
second,
It's a good policy to have,
yeah,
But I can't make an owner
sure,
do that. That's their money, so I can't make, but we do suggest that they keep them.
Sure.
If somebody lives in there like a year, I mean, what are the odds that they didn't already damage enough to write that off? I mean, is it usually that they don't get the deposit back, or is it like the percentage?
We usually give our deposits back, okay? And the reason is we run a very tight ship. You're going to see with some of the future forms that we go through. I know we're running short of time, so I'll kind of, skip on these things, but there's a few things in here that, again, by law, you have to do. Number one, we put on line 230, a charge of $100 will be subtracted from the security deposit to rekey the locks, okay? Every time a tenant moves out of one of our properties, we rekey the locks. Now, all tenants don't do that, but for liability purposes, we suggest that they all do it, and we put that in the leases. So, again, it's something you don't have to put in, but we do that. And I want to do it because I want them to know that, number one, nobody else has keys to the property. that the previous tenant's not gonna come in there and steal our stuff. And number two, I don't want them changing the locks, so I don't have a key. I mean, really, bottom line. Okay, the next three things are lead-based paint, mold-related hazards, and sex offender and child predator registry. We never had these before, but now in the last few years, we've had to come up with these things. Lead-based paint, now you all know that if a child eats lead-based paint, it could harm them. It could hurt them, okay? And mold-related hazards, the same thing, you could get harmed. But I tell people, I'm not gonna give you any of these environmental protection agencies, because that's what they are. They're gonna tell you that, you know, they got like a 36-page document. I tell people, if you got a night where there's nothing good on TV, and you wanna read a 36-page boring document, knock yourself out. We give you the websites to go ahead and find out about that. On sex offender and child predator registry, we give you 2 websites, 2 phone numbers, and a mailing address. You can go online and find out if there's a child predator or, you know, a sex offender within a short distance of your rental property. And we also get them to initial 4 clerks on that page. Okay, last page of the lease is time is of the essence. You all know what that means? Time has a value, okay? Now the next form that we have is rules and regulations addendum. And we put this together because, again, we want to make sure that there's no misunderstandings. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that we never have a problem. But I do know this, the more checking, the more verifying, and the more that we treat it like a business, we do have fewer problems. Okay? On number 1, change the air conditioning and heating filters monthly. And I tell them that's for your own good, because your utility bill is going to be less if you do that. Number 2, if they have any stopped up toilets, sinks, or anything like that, the cost to unplug those is the tenant's responsibility. When they accept the property, all the drains are flowing freely. And if they're not, we get them flowing free. But if they clog it up, that's their problem. Okay?
This is gold right here, you guys. This is really good stuff. The filter, changing the filter, asking them to do that. I can't tell you how many times, and the other landlords may know this, I've had to, when I bought properties, I bought a property just not that long ago that they didn't put an actual filter in there. You don't know how many hundreds of dollars I had to spend on repairs for the AC because it was holding all of that lint or whatever you want to call it,
all that dust.
and it caused it a lot more issues with it. So it's a thing. I know some people actually try to go in the property to change, like they like say, hey, we're going to go in the property and change it out so they can get eyes on the property, right?
Yep.
And then the part though about the second part you just stated about the toilets, isn't that the number one thing you hear? The chick's going to call me in the middle of the night because the toilet's unplugged. I mean, there's some parts of it you have to give some responsibility to them, right?
That's right. Okay, number 11, it says, lessee is encouraged to secure renter's insurance on personal belongings. Neither lessor nor Winning Songy and Associates are liable for any damage to lessee's personal property. And folks, that's just a fact. You know, a lot of people think that when they get into an apartment, that we're responsible for everything, and we're not. I use this as an example. I say, you know, we could have a storm, and a storm could blow a tree down right outside our window. And it could come through that living room window, and one of the branches could go right through your beautiful 60-inch TV screen, right through your sofa. I said, who do you think's the problem? It's yours. Because we don't cover any of the tenants.
Contents, yeah.
We don't cover anything. Well, all we cover is the bill. Okay? Next thing that we do is, number 17 is, in our company, we have a no cash policy. Now, because we manage so many units, tenants, and because we have people coming in and out of our offices to pay rent, we want to make sure that they understand we do not keep cash in our office. And everything that we do is by money orders made payable to the company or checks made payable to the company. We do not accept cash. Okay? And if they come in with cash, we'll tell them to go get their money. Yes, sir.
Do you have a website that pay online?
No.
So real quick on that front, Cozy, the website cozy.co, any of you guys use it? Yeah, so you can actually do, instead of a paper application, there's one where it's I think it's 40, was it 40 bucks, 35?
I think it's 35 on
I
Cozy.
think it's 35 on Cozy. So you don't have to have like a paper application. They just send you a report for that. But they also do rent on there. And I think work orders, don't they do work out?
I do, and Zillow does also. I use both, and actually I think Cozy is a little bit more robust. But Zillow is, it's got some brand recognition.
Yeah.
They're both awesome.
And so because I mean, let's face it. I mean, how many people? Not a lot of people. It's one of those things where it's definitely don't have the cash because you don't want it to be a known fact. I mean, $1,000 a pop. This guy's getting rent from how many units? You know what I mean? Like that just puts you out of liability, right? And also, you don't want to go and collect it from your tenant, walk from the door of the house. First of all, why are you going to their house to collect? And then second of all, you're walking to the truck. Who's going to come behind you and be like, I got $1,000 cash?
And yet there are a lot of people that manage their own property, and that's what they do. They'll go meet them at the place, get the rent. I was talking to somebody earlier, so they just left and they were getting rent. Don't ever take cash.
Don't.
People are, I'm just telling you, don't deal with cash.
You can't track it. Horrible for bookkeeping. And then, to be honest, I don't know if that puts you on the IRS's radar even more when you're doing all cash income. Just FYI, you probably can say better than that. But so I mean, these are some practice things like operation procedures that it's like there's a reason why we're saying it's better to do it this way because logically you don't put yourself at risk.
Exactly. And on this second page of this form, we have number 23 says management will not be responsible for hotel expenses that a resident may incur due to maintenance problems, nor will they be responsible for the expense of any repair made by a service contracted by the resident. Again, just common sense things, and we've covered all these things. When I sign up a tenant for one of our properties, it's a good hour to an hour and a half session. Because I cover everything, and I always feel that the more I tell people up front, the fewer questions you have on the back end. And everything is in writing. All these forms that I'm showing you, we give the tenant a copy of everything when they leave the office. Okay? Right. Next one is a lead-based paint disclosure. Again, one of the things that's required by law. Now, they stopped manufacturing lead-based paint in 1970. The government said anything built after 1978, you wouldn't have to worry about lead-based paint, but they gave an 8-year shelf life. So anything built after 78, chances are you're not going to have any lead-based paint.
Do you have to get the form filled out and stuff?
I always get it,
Whether it's a
whether it is or not. It's called just covering yourself. Okay. The next form, and this is a 3-page, we almost finished, guys. The next form is a 3-page move-in, move-out inspection. Now, we give 2 copies of this. We bring this, and we give the tenant 1 copy. We tell them, go to the property. If you find anything wrong, fill it out and mail it back to us. The second copy, I get them to sign right there in the office in case they don't mail it back to me. And I'm telling them, if they don't mail it back to me, then I'm going to assume everything's in perfect shape. Okay? Next one is pet provision. And again, we don't use this all the time, but if you have a pet and you want to make sure there are certain things in there that you can charge an additional monthly rent and you can charge an additional pet deposit for pets. So, it's listed right there, and it says a minimum of $50 will of the security deposit will automatically be forfeited upon move out for sanitizing. The next form is a transfer provision. Now, we don't use this one much, but we do use it for military personnel. The law is that if a military person is transferred and they can show you a copy of the orders, you do need to let them out of the lease. Okay? That's the law. Okay? And then the next thing is why should you use a property manager? And then some of the services that are provided by our company. And then after that, we have just a simple Excel spreadsheet which shows all the income and expenses that we take in and we pay out. And we do this every single month. Our office manager will take the receipts of any repairs that we give, a copy of the check, and we email it or mail it, depending on what they prefer, to them. So they've got a record of everything on a monthly basis and a cumulative basis at the end of the year. So that way it makes it easy to just give that to your CPA at the end of the year. Okay? All right, folks, that's about all I have. I know we're running close to out of time, but anybody got any questions?
I have a curiosity.
Okay.
You know, like if you evicted someone, and you talked about throwing your stuff out on the street, who's gonna pick up that stuff?
Well, I'm hoping.
Yeah, the neighbor starts shopping, the neighbors brought over the grocery cart and they start, shopping, right?
You don't get fined for littering or something?
Oh, no.
Bring it on the curb, you put it on the curb.
Some of that will come back later.
And you'll find
The
that
trash man will do?
many times, that stuff will be gone before we even leave the property. I'm serious. I mean, really. You would be amazed at how many people will take that. Yes, sir.
This is something for y'all and all the landlords. So one of the properties I bought, when I bought it, it had these locks on it called landlord locks. Anybody's ever heard of that? So instead of swapping locks every time, they have a certain key. You can pull the cylinder out and put a different cylinder back in. So you don't have to actually take the doorknobs off. You just change the cylinders and it changes the locks.
It's a little techie tip, yeah.
And there's also locks out there now that you can put different combinations in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do that too. So, I mean, you can do that also. Okay? Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about how your company got started, if you acquired or if you just started?
No, we started it. I was working for another company and they sold out. And when they sold out, I didn't have a job. So I went to work for another company. And they sold out. And I told my wife, I said, I've been running real estate companies for other people for 15 years. Hell, I ought to be able to do it for us. And that's how we started Wayne Songy and Associates, and that's just about 29 and a half years ago. But we started the business from scratch.
Do you mind talking about, I'm not asking you to be a fair housing expert, but would you recommend any things, and again, people, there's a level of fair housing. What is fair housing and how does that apply to landlords?
We don't discriminate. Discrimination is against the law. And we have tenants right now, and well, you can just vision that. Managing 110 units, we have white, Hispanic, black, and Asian tenants. And we really do. We don't discriminate. That's against the law. Okay? You have to be very careful about that. Okay? So, that's...
So fair housing, the Fair Housing Act, I know you guys have gone through training on that. I know I had to go through training on that. It's a very complex topic, but what you want to understand is you can't just turn away someone because you don't like X, Y, Z about them. And so you need to be careful with things like that when it comes to screening tenants. Especially there are what's called protected classes. That's going to be race. That is going to be sex, right? Remind me, it's been a few years since my training.
Family status.
Familiar status. You can't say, oh, I don't want any kids in my house.
That's right.
You might not want kids in your house, I get it. Like, you don't want, like, kids drawn on the wall, right? You can't, what it is you cannot, at the end of the day, you cannot publicly state these things. And again, I'm no attorney and whatnot, but I mean, some other things are, you cannot, based on religion, like, think of those protected classes that people sue over. I think sexual orientation is now one.
Handicap.
Handicap, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because someone's handicapped, and they're like, and they're, you know, so there are some things, as far as that goes, that is actually I mean, I worked for an apartment complex corporation where when I went into the company back in 2014, they were under a major lawsuit because of discrimination because someone was handicapped. Basically, someone was asking for a second, they were, the only thing available was second story, and they weren't notified when a first story unit became available. They weren't notified right away, and if I remember, the details are fuzzy, but it was something like that, and I mean, the person won. Like, because they had asked for requests for it to be transferred down, because, you know, if they're handicapped, they're having difficulty with the stairs, whatever. So that's actually a major factor as far as when it comes to not discriminating, where we are in a litigious society, right? One of the things I had to get used to, and I'm sure you guys can attest this, when I was a property manager, is when I had to learn how to have thick skin, because people said, I'm going to sue you. They were telling me, I'm going to sue you for this, and I'm going to... So, as far as that goes, I'm sure you guys are bonded and insured as far as, with multiple things as far as like, it goes, because of these situations, umbrella policies are you know, something that a lot of people will get just to kind of protect them. Obviously, there's provisions in your landlord policy to a degree. But we are in a litigious society, so just make sure you're understanding which T's you need to cross and which I's you need to dot, okay?
And have that CYA paperwork, always.
CYA, cover your ass, okay?
Yeah, cover your anus, I'm just trying to keep clean.
You have a question?
I'm sorry, I'm
So if you don't select someone to be a tenant, are you required by law to give them information as to why you didn't select them?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What would you say is a fair answer? When someone calls and say, hey, why didn't I get selected? You're putting someone else in the unit, and say they have, you know, some reasons. What would be an answer that you give as far as letting someone know that they're
Based on the
declining?
information that we got on your credit report, we had someone more qualified at the time to run the apartment.
Yeah, a more general statement is. So does it say something on here?
That's just a whole list of
Oh,
criteria,
so-
so you can kind of use any of those.
Yes, sir.
Based on the criteria, we just found a more suitable candidate. Don't give any reason why. We found them. I'm sorry you feel that way. We just found a more suitable candidate.
Well, in many cases also, the owner makes the decision, we do not. So if we have two applications, we go over the applications with them, go over, you know, as far as credit scores and credit history, and the owner makes the final decision. We don't. We want to be left out so that they couldn't possibly sue us. I don't know who the owner is, but
Yes, sir.
we just try to do it the right way.
Sure.
It sounds like the 3 times salary is a more personal preference. How do you protect that against the law? Is that something that, how do you protect that specifically?
That's our policy.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
there's no law.
I was just wondering,
That's our policy.
have you ever had to protect against that only, like, or you know my
That's pretty industry standard.
Okay, I was,
Like the apartment complex corporation I worked for. If you guys have ever rented apartments, you know, the more professional. I think there's a few different types of landlords. There's typically professional landlords as far as, you know, property management companies, apartment complexes owned by corporations, and then you got all the way down to mom and pop. When people who have those breeds, who they're restricted breeds, you know, or they've got, you know, all these things that make them not a good tenant, you know, income, verification, things like that. A lot of times, the only places they can rent are from a mom and pop who doesn't have systems, right? Who doesn't have screening criteria. And what happens to those landlords?
They get screwed.
They get,
Well, and let
a
us
lot of times, right? They're going through, they're getting dragged, they're not as profitable, they're getting dragged through eviction court. They might get someone, you know, like someone who is a systematic tenant who knows the system, who likes to play the system. What does that mean? I don't know if any of you landlords can talk to this. There are people who know what the state laws for tenants versus landlords are, and they're going to say, hey, they're going to go find your weak spot in your systems, and they're going to play the system with it so that they can. There are ones who are professional tenants who do that. So what does that mean? I'm not to scare you, but it's, so whenever you're screening, and when you're screening and you see that this person has been evicted 5 times from landlords, or going to court for like, you're like, maybe this person, maybe, that's a good thing you want to know about, right?
Well, the main thing that we do is when I look at a credit bureau report, there's a few things that I'm going to look at, and primarily, it tells how many 30, 60, and 90-day accounts that they have had where they have not paid their bills. That credit report also shows if they filed bankruptcy and when they did. It'll show the items on the bankruptcy that have been placed into bankruptcy and the ones that have not been. It'll show whether they're back on child support. It'll show a lot of things, and that's a lot of reasons. Another thing is it shows how many inquiries you had. If I see a person who's had 24 inquiries in the last year, guess what? And I look at 2 or 3 of the previous ones for apartment complexes. You know what that tells me? That's a problem.
And they're getting turned down from place to place, right?
And if they've been turned down, my thought is, my mental attitude is very simple. What am I missing? If I'm missing something and 3 other people turned them down for apartments, why, what am I not finding? So, there's all kind of reasons why you can turn a person down. But money is a big one, and also how they pay their bills, how they handle expenses. I can tell you all this, 2 months of the year that rents come in slow, August and December. And why is that?
Back to school.
Back to school and Christmas. I guarantee you, I can tell you that those are 2 months that I know our agents are going to get on that, and they're going to follow up real closely with those people in those 2 months. Okay? Because that's when you have a lot of problems.
Any more questions, you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so let's say we purchase a property to rent, do we have to modify it for somebody with a handicap before we?
Reasonable, within the reasonable, you have to reasonably accommodate certain.
To a degree, so there is legislation around that, to my understanding with fair housing, is they can't, there are certain things that are deemed what's called reasonable and some things that are not reasonable. You guys can speak to this more, but if you want to, but there are certain things that, yes, if they have to make a request for it. You can't just say, oh, I have someone who's handicapped, let me go deck out the place for them on like things that you think they need. But there's some things that are called like reasonable accommodations, if I'm not mistaken, like ramps by the entry door, handles in the bathroom, and doorknobs. Doorknobs are the other big ones, because if someone has like issues, they have the one that's like the little handle lever versus one that they have to actually grip and turn. There's a few things like that that are deemed.
To answer your question, when you go buy a property, do you have to do that up front? No. You can just make the improvements for any tenant, but then if you have a handicapped person that wants to go in, you might have to make those modifications. So yes, but going in, you don't have to do that from the get-go, no.
Because you have to rent to them.
Do you have to rent to them? Well, you can't deny renting to them,
Right.
unless something comes up in the application, yes. If you have nothing valid, then you cannot deny them.
Go in there and make
That's right.
modifications for them.
Yes, that's right. Within reason.
And a lot of things that come up too is with ramps outside. There's a lot of that going on where people that have wheelchairs have to have access to get in. So it's, that's one of the most expensive and biggest things. And I'll tell you what we find too is that some of our apartments are 2-story. And people that are elderly sometimes have a hard time getting upstairs. There's a company called Acorn Chair Lifts where you can take an actual chair, put it on a wall going up the side of the stairs.
Like a track.
And put it on a track, and they sit in the chair, they put like a seat belt on themselves, and they push a button and the chair takes them to the 2nd floor. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but Acorn is one of the biggest companies like that.
All right, guys, we just have one more question. Anyone have one? No? All right.
All right, guys,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Real quick, I'll have Butch come and do e-myths They also have E-Myth Revisited. And do you want your dad to pick it, or
I'll let you pick it.
let me know? All right, Robert Belmont.
Okay,
Over
so Robert,
there.
this is Robert wins.
There you go. Well, listen, guys. Thank you so much for that. Thank you again for that. And with it, guys, just a few things. Again, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, the best thing to do is to go to our website, LA.NorthshoreREIA.com, or our homepage, and put it in there just in case I can't read some handwriting. The other thing is tomorrow night, if you want to come to the Hand-In Mixer, and then next Tuesday we're doing that lunch and learn during lunch. One last thing, the packet that he gave, it's in a PDF form on the website, on the upcoming meetings tab. Okay, they're actually anytime a speaker gives us something, it's been my goal to try to pin it online. So if you want to save it, I know sometimes it's like, oh, I had it in paper, but I lost, So we're putting it on the website. But ultimately, guys, thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys with it. If you want to grab a piece of king cake or something, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, or if you're interested in signing up to be get more info and be a sponsor, there's a sheet back there. But otherwise, see you guys either tomorrow night or next week or next month on March 12th. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I did last time, I'll keep open it.
Thank you very much. Financial advisor.
You did well. Sure. I'll do Yeah, so on our website, I went on this website. Facebook,
I'm gonna run, but I want to say thank you very much. Give a lot out.
Take care, thank you. Take care.
We'll talk more about it. As I recall, thank you for introducing yourselves. It's Liza Dar, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it was really glad you came. Did you enjoy it? Glad you came. You came to hang out? You help with the room? You guys have rooms? We do. You're looking at
That's awesome. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And so, I wanted to
bought a microwave. Yeah.
You might own properties or something.
So, yeah, right, and it was just, I'm looking for a place in ours.
Yeah, it's not non-living.
You know, but anyway, so I keep running into it, and in fact, last week I met with, a lady, her husband's a lawyer, she's a,
not like both sides.
is related to, is right on the property, they're selling their homes, and they want to live in investing, so I'm hoping she'll come to these. Another of my clients, she actually works with a, I don't know why the name's not, but it's a national real estate company for my student housing for college students. So she's done that, she actually started working with them as a tenant, worked for them, and she's been with them for like 4 years. She's managing now, she travels, several states and it's also good. And she
And
wants
I love the
to
idea of,
work on a
kind
plan
of
to
virtually doing, because that's what we do.
company and start on it.
That's
We're all
awesome.
kinds of different-
Yeah, anyway, so I was excited, I wanted to get back in, you know.
You're looking for small multifamily,
I think
right?
it's
Or
great.
multifamily.
I would love to, so one of the things we had talked about is when he goes off to college looking for something where he could, you know, stay inside radio or something like that, but yeah,
If
I
it's a
love the
house,
idea of.
yeah, if it's a house.
I'm on a bigger
So,
copy, it's not actually
I don't
for
really
a
look
while,
at
but I'm
it
on
as
it, so I love the idea.
But
You
if
know,
it's
I
a
can't go
house,
back
then
and
yeah, I
start
gotta
over,
go
we
do
have 4
something.
sons, there's
Yeah,
actually
big
7 of us in
lot.
my house. So multifamily's not, you know,
Google Earth it, you know.
it's not gonna work for us.
Or like as far as house hacking, living in one side and renting
House
out.
hacking,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
And if you
But if
want
I had it to
do
do all
pictures, you
over
could, there's a
again,
company.
You can definitely house hack with college students, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But,
So I would highly
With a
recommend,
house, yeah, you can
if I don't already have your info for like cash buyers, I had actually last year I did a hand, as far as
I've had a
last year,
house
this
we
year,
did
we're doing
in
deals to
Ohio.
investors. So these are off-market deals, these wholesale deals. And when we buy houses, I can see call and say, happy your cash buyers list.
The
It's
tenant
hard to
review was so
find deals.
nice.
Right.
I gave her
And
first
just
visit,
getting on
said,
their
if you want to
radar.
buy it, just go see it.
Well, and that's what,
She
like,
went and
you know,
looked
so
at
my
the house, she
husband
took
did real
pictures, she
estate
put
for a
it
while,
on
and
some
it
board,
is tough, like
she
there's.
put it out to her
there's so
group of
many of us
buyers,
in
all
the
that stuff.
Yeah.
So many
She hooked
people
me up
wanting
with her,
to do
we
it,
had a
and
spotter
then,
living
you know,
in there,
housing,
she hooked me
that's
up with
such a
their
big
attorneys,
turnaround.
who
Like
we
with
used
the
to evict
sweet
the
spot,
person.
the
I
one
never
that
went up there and saw the property, except that we made a few dollars on it.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was $6,000.
definitely, so
It's a house, you know, and, we did another one in
got a
Shreveport.
card or not, but yeah, if I can get your info, we'll
You can
check
totally,
it
Yeah.
or something.
I wrote down.
You put your info on there, yeah, that's fine, I can input you that way.
that one we
And
had
we
somebody
can
on
check with
Craigslist.
you.
Yeah.
And with it
They
is,
actually took some pictures
yeah,
for me,
actually, it was almost like
stuff
the
like
last year
that.
that.
You can have real estate agents, we usually don't go out sometimes, they'll go out and take
And this
pictures.
other
You know,
lady,
You can
the
have
one,
agents, work with agents to
who
get
is, her husband's a lawyer, and they want to do that, I think she would be a great person, so
You're
I'll
welcome to,
definitely.
give my info out, whatever that looks like. And I don't
Is this
want
fun?
I'm starting to do more of these.
Because I know Larry,
Sense of like
Joe, he used to do
the beginner lunch and learner type.
like
Yeah.
where you,
The,
the auctions.
tomorrow night in was just going to second network. It's gonna be this the whole time, right?
Now,
But
the one-on-ones on a Tuesday at lunch?
at lunch, yep, on the side room of Bell Pine, so if you're excited.
Okay.
I'm eventually wanting to get it out into the whole area,
So,
but we're working.
yeah, my networking group meets
It's like a day and a half.
Tuesday, 2 to 1. We meet on Tuesdays at facets from 11:30 to 1. And if you want to come, I actually had interest, a lady, she's
So
a
are
property
these properties that are already going to
She
auction,
wanted the
or properties that
information.
are just, the bank owns and they have
If
it
you ever
going
want
on
to come
auction
and
yet, or
just tell
they
them
just?
about it, because, you know.
So you
we
just
have
kind of
to
make
visit
any offers on them?
the realtor, the title company,
Yeah.
the
Right.
lender, the insurer, but if you ever wanna come and just tell them about what you're doing here, just, absolutely come on in.
Do you, one of my cards,
I do not get one.
That's me. I've got two cards,
Okay.
next, I do a handful of lunch and learns, to people who want to learn about the business.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. And so, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for, coming and saying hey, and thank you guys for coming. And, got some king cake out of it. That's right. Ready to wait the talker? Sounds good.
Chamber one, you're part of, chamber. How do you like that?
I love my chamber one. I absolutely love it. I did Master Networks, and I've been to E&I's, but you can't beat chamber one here at $80 a year.
All right, you guys, that's all. Thank you for joining in. Look, thank you guys for joining in. I don't know what happened with the event live stream, but thank you guys for sticking with us. Look, these are some upcoming events we've got. Look, if you want to sign up for a newsletter, these are some little things we did. You can go on our main page at LA North Shore RIA, sign up for a newsletter. If you're interested in being a sponsor, you can reach out to us and we'll contact you on that. Thank you guys. Have a great one. God bless.
Networking event, you have access to that. You have access to all kinds of advertising and different functions. They have different groups, so they have like an education.